Alright guys, I'm really excited to do today's video. This is my Valve Index 2020 review. I got the Valve Index about a week ago. I've been putting it through its paces. This is the headset right here. And of course, these are the Valve Index controllers, or the Valve Knuckles that people have always called them by. And I'm really excited to get into this video with you guys. As somebody who's been a big fan of VR for a long time, as somebody who has the Oculus Quest, I've had the Rift S, I've had the HTC Vive, I had the original Rift. I've obviously had a lot of variety of headsets, so I've had a lot of experience of how these headsets work and what has come down the pipeline from some of these makers before. And the Valve Index is obviously being touted as the best VR headset you can buy today. And I wanted to put that to its paces and finally get this into my hands and see, is that true? Is it a better experience and a $600 better experience than what the Rift S is compared to what I had before? And we're going to dive into the video right now, and we're going to talk about to see if this is a better experience and better worthwhile investment for me and others than some of the other things like the Rift S or the Oculus Quest with Link and all those other things out there. So let's go ahead and dive in and take a look.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech, going for a recce is the gaming tech, gaming techie is the gaming tech, gaming techie.
Alright guys, so here we are with my full Valve Index review. Now, I've been looking forward to getting my hands on this headset because a lot of people out there, ever since it released, said it was the best VR headset you can basically get. And as somebody who's basically owned every VR head, almost every big VR headset, there's like Pimax and stuff, I've never got hold of one of those. But I had the HTC Vive when it came out, I had the original Rift, I had the Rift S, I've had the Oculus Go, I've had the Oculus Quest, and now I have this. And I still have my Oculus Quest over there, and that won't ever be leaving me for the foreseeable future until Oculus releases a new standalone VR, because standalone VR definitely has a place in VR, and I love that headset for what it is. But this is, of course, the premium headset you can buy for PC enthusiasts out there. And I'm going to dive in and go through every single spec of this thing with you guys and what I think overall about this headset and who I obviously think it's for and all that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's start off with the tracking of this headset because I'm going to be comparing this a lot to the Rift S because I think that's what a lot of people are going to want to be looking at as people who had either the original Oculus or the Rift S or the original Rift. And as somebody who's owned both and stuff like that, I think you guys are going to obviously like the comparison between both, but that's obviously what's closest to me as well. So on the Rift S, I was obviously used to going through and looking at, the tracking on there, and it was inside-out tracking. There was cameras on the front of that headset, and I always thought the tracking on that headset was good. I never had any issues with that headset. I played through that headset and never really thought about the tracking issue being a problem. I played, games that were shooters and stuff like that. I played Contractors, I played Pavlov, all that stuff. And 99, maybe 95 to 99% of the time, it was always good. I never really had any issues or noticed any problems. So here on the Valve Index, of course, we're now talking about going back to base station. So I'm going back to what I basically used to do with the Vive when I first had that headset, where you actually have to put up these base stations on your wall, and you're seeing that now. How I have them hooked up in my house, where I have them on opposite corners of my area of where I play here. They're really easy to set up. All they require is power. It comes with power extenders right in the box, so there's no issues with that. And plugging them in is really simple, and they just worked right out of the box. The setup on the Valve Index as far as these base stations go was literally like 5 minutes. It took me longer to drill the hole into my ceiling, because obviously they're hanging up on my ceiling, than it did anything else. But as far as the tracking go, when I was playing games, I was really, really impressed because, like I said, I didn't have any issues with the Rift S, and I still think that there needs to be a place in the market for people to use inside-out tracking, because this is not going to be something that many people are going to want to do in their home. They're not going to want to put base stations on their wall. But if you have a dedicated VR room and you're an enthusiast like me for VR and stuff like that, then this is obviously going to be perfect tracking as opposed to what the Oculus Rift does, which is like a 90-95% accuracy, to now this one being like 99% accurate. And I noticed it. I noticed it because I played a game on the Oculus Rift S, and then I played it again on the Index, and that is a goalie challenge. I forget the exact name of the title. It's like Goalie Challenge VR or something like that. You're basically a goalie in the NHL, and you're taking shots from these people, and you have a stick in one hand and a glove in the other. I played it on the Rift S, and it was good. Like, I was able to move my hand. The tracking was pretty solid. But remember that you're now holding a controller like this down from you with a glove over here, and you're looking straight up at where the puck is coming from. So this controller is not being tracked well all the time. not something I really noticed when I was playing the game, but I instantly saw how much better it was when I put it on the index, because now I was using the controller and the controller was always being tracked. As soon as I looked down, the controller was always there, and I was able to make faster saves and faster reflex saves because of it, and it was noticeable and it was less glitchy. And I'm still not 100% sure because this game only exists on Steam VR. I don't know if this is an issue with the Rift S as far as tracking goes, with it working on Steam VR titles, or if this is because the tracking is just inherently better on both. But I can tell you from the limited experience I've had with it so far and the games I've played, it's definitely, regardless on if I can compare apples and oranges with those two games, it's still a better tracking system. You're going to get 99% better accuracy when you're scoping and stuff like that. You're not going to lose tracking when your hand's at your side, as opposed to what you would lose if you're on the Rift S because they can't see it. You know, you could put it obviously behind your back. All that kind of stuff that you can't do with the Rift S that usually 90% of the time doesn't matter in games, but it does for those small amounts of times. And this is obviously going to be a better tracking setup. So the tracking is definitely better. It's not hugely better, but like I said, it's about 5-ish% better than what the Rift S can do. And that may be important to some people who are playing, you know, competitive games like Contractors and Pavlov. So that is how the tracking compares to both of those, and I'm really happy with how much better the tracking is for me in some of the titles that I played. Like I said, that 5% does go a long way in some of the titles that I play, like the hockey one and the shooters. But obviously, it's more of a pain to set up and have to actually have it installed somewhere, depending on how your home is set up. The next thing we're going to compare and talk about here is the display on the Valve Index. Now, I already had a Rift S, which everybody knows is already a really good really good display as far as, you know, the resolution and field of view and all that stuff. And let's talk about field of view first. So as somebody who came from the Rift S, I'm somebody who wears glasses and stuff like that. On the Rift S, I have the VR optician lenses that I used, and those things were amazing. Being able to see without wearing contacts or glasses was literally like a whole new world for me, because I've never obviously been able to see otherwise. And those gave me a peek into what that could feel like, and that was awesome. And I got the Rift S is a 100-degree field of view, and obviously I was able to maximize that and put it close to my face and all that stuff, and it worked extremely well. On the Valve Index, they don't claim an actual number because it really depends on your face and if you're using glasses and all that kind of stuff. For me, it can go up to 130 degrees depending on how close you get it to your face. There is a slider here on the side that you can see that is going up and down, and you can use that to adjust it. And basically what that does is it adjusts it closer and further away from your face. And I was able to actually maximize it to my face when I was wearing contacts. So I was able to put it all the way up to my face. Even with my facial structure, I was able to get the full 130-degree view. And it's definitely a noticeable increase compared to the Oculus Rift S. Is it a huge increase where you're going to be mind blown all over again? Probably not. But as soon as I put it on, I did notice it. And it was awesome to be able to feel that view just a little bit more on both sides. And I wait for the day until it completely encompasses horizontal and vertically everywhere around us, where we really can't see any black at all, and the field of view is just all over us, and you really feel like you're in there. But it definitely adds to the immersion of the game, because now you feel like you're more into the worlds than you were before when I was on the Rift S, because now that field of view is taking a greater view of extra 30 degrees, and I definitely feel like I'm more immersed in the game. So it definitely is a noticeable improvement, but not drastically huge where you're going to rave about it all day, but definitely something you're going to appreciate and not want to go back to once you use the Valve Index. Some of the other things that people talk about is on the Rift S, there is no noticeable IPD adjustment, so you may have an issue with the IPD if you're using the Rift S, because it's software enhanced only. So if you're in a range over 70 or something like that, or under 60, you may have an issue being able to see. So it's something you may have to try and find out with your IPD. I don't have that issue. I'm a 67, which is basically almost about average. But on the Valve Index, you do have the hardware slider on the bottom that you can actually change the actual IPD, so you won't have any issues as far as being able to change your IPD and adjust it to exactly how it's supposed to be, since it is hardware based. So something to keep in mind for that as well. Some of the other things that people talk about here is a screen door effect. It's with the resolution being on the Valve Index 1440 by 1600 per eye. That screen door effect is basically minimalized. I basically don't notice it at all. You would really have to strain and look for it and be annoying about it if you actually want to see it. But other than that, while you're playing games and stuff, it's really not noticeable anymore at all with this resolution and the display that they're using. So that's really good to see. On the Oculus Rift S, it's there. It's not bad. I hardly notice it there as well, but I do notice it a little bit more than what I do on the Valve Index here. So it's a little bit of an improvement for me as far as the screen door effect goes. The one thing that's not an improvement on the Valve Index that's actually a little bit less is the actual Godrays. Now, this is not the Godrays that I'm used to seeing with the way that it fits on my head, at least, what I've noticed so far. If you guys remember back on the original Rift and the Vive and stuff like that, that you saw Godrays around the text and it was like a glowing stream from the actual text. I don't really notice that in the same way on the Valve Index. What I do notice is that when that text is on the screen and it's a bright white or something, instead of it being on the text and glowing out to you, it's like a white halo around the actual lenses around the corner of the lenses around my face, which is like a white bright light. It's not bad. It is a step back from what the Rift S is. The Rift S did a really good job as far as eliminating Godrays, and it's a much better improvement on there, and it's definitely better than it is on the Valve Index with it doing that whole like halo thing around your head when the white is shining through. But also, 95% of the time, you're not going to see it because it's going to be for 5 seconds and it's going to be at a main menu screen or something like that where the white text is. And when you're playing the game, it immediately evaporates and you probably won't notice it again. So, and it's like I said, white text on something that's dark in the background. So, like when I'm playing that hockey game, I don't notice that on the ice just because it's white. That's not the way it works. It has to be on a dark setting background, which is why main menus are usually where that happens. And most of the developers are obviously knowing about it, so they avoid that for this generation of headsets to begin with. So it's not as good as the Rift S, but not a deal breaker in any means with everything else with the improvements on this thing. But definitely not as good as the Rift S. And of course, the last thing we got to talk about is, of course, what the Valve Index is being touted as, which is the 120 Hz mode and 144 Hz in experimental mode. I have a 1080 Ti. I can do 120 Hz with 1.0 super sampling on almost every game that I play. I haven't noticed any issues with it. Beat Saber, all that stuff play really easily on that. And I can hit that. And it's definitely a smoother experience at 120 Hz. Definitely noticeable from the Rift S's 80 Hz that's sitting on there. So it's definitely a good increase, and you could definitely feel like things are just smoother when you're playing Beat Saber and you're playing games, especially that are fast moving when it comes to like VR games. It's definitely something you're going to notice, and it's definitely going to feel smoother to you. But I will say that it's not this drastic. I've seen a couple of people say it when the Index first came out, that it's apparently this huge revolutionary thing. I don't see it that way. I don't see it like as big of an increase that like it's like the greatest thing ever made or anything. It's just it's a better improvement, and it's a smoother improvement than what 80 Hertz is. And I do like that it is better, and I do feel that it is better. But if the Valve Index were to disappear and I was back at 80 or 90 Hertz on the Rift S, it wouldn't be the first thing I miss from this headset. It would not be my top 3 things that I would like about this headset, which I'll talk about at the end, that I'm going to be craving or missing on the Rift S. There are other things I like more, and I'm okay with that. So, like I said, it is there. It is noticeable. You probably will notice it. Different people may feel different ways about this. For me, I like it, but not a game changer in any sort of way for me. So that is as far as how the display goes. Let's go ahead and talk about the next thing, which is the actual comfortableness of this actual headset. So as far as being comfortable, I love the actual leather strap that this thing is using, and it feels like it's like a flesh material, kind of like a cloth material with some sort of gel inside, and it feels really comfortable around my head. Even somebody who wears glasses and stuff like that, it's still really comfortable while I'm wearing it. I do feel like it's definitely more comfortable than the Oculus Quest that I have, which I had to do a ton of mods to even be comfortable enough for me to wear for more than 30 minutes. This one, I don't have to do any mods to it. And I can't wait to get my VR optician lenses for this because I haven't gotten them in the mail yet, because the comfortable is going to be even higher. Because right now I am using glasses, and the headset is comfortable on both sides, but I do feel the pressure of my glasses sitting, on my face when I'm using it. I can feel that they're on there. So once I remove these glasses and I can use the VR optician lenses at all times, I'm going to be super excited because the comfortable of this headset is going to go through the roof, and it's going to be great. So it's definitely comfortable. The Rift S for me was already comfortable, so this may be slightly more comfortable just because I like the material more, but they're both really comfortable headsets for me, and I would take either or, with this one just having the slight lead just because I like the material better that they're using that feels on your face. But I still enjoyed both of them as far as comfortable goes. The next thing we're going to talk about, and this is where it's a game changer for me, as somebody who plays a lot of Beat Saber, a lot of rhythm games, a lot of VR games, obviously, is the actual headphones on this thing. These things are freaking awesome. The 3D audio on this sound is literally through the roof. I could literally hear when sound's coming behind me, when it's on the right of me only, when it's on the left of me only, when it's coming from above me, you can get a feeling for it. They sound loud. I have no reason. You could technically take these off, and there is a headphone jack on this thing. But there's literally no reason to do that unless if you just look, there's obviously a little bit of sound bleed, so people next to you may be able to hear a little bit of what you're hearing because these headphones are built to just be laying on the side of your ears, not like encompassed or anything like some other ones are. But these things are freaking great. They sound as loud as I want them to be when I'm playing Beat Saber and music-driven games. The sound quality is amazing. Everything about these headphones are amazing. It is easily my favorite feature and upgrade from the Rift S to this. Because even with the Rift S, I decided to add those, what are they called? These, I forget the exact name. Those ones that everyone was using on PSVR, headsets that everyone was using. I put those on there, and they definitely increased my sound because the Rift S's sound built in was garbage. Especially for playing music games. I would never use those. So I put those on there, and they definitely sound louder and they sound better, but they don't hold a candle to the 3D audio effects on this and to how loud these are even compared to those. So these things are awesome, and it's my favorite feature on the Index for sure, bar none. And my second favorite feature of the actual Valve Index is these actual controllers. I love the controllers of this thing. I still own the Oculus Quest. I actually do not own the Rift S anymore. You can see my Oculus Link video on why I got rid of my Rift S when I got this. But I love the controllers of the Oculus, that they use on the Quest and stuff, which is the same thing the Rift S uses. I have no issues with those. They're really comfortable, and I love those, and I'll continue to use them on the Quest without, missing these controllers in some sort of way. But if I had my choice of either those or these for the rest of my VR future, I would 100% choose these. And I'll go for a couple of reasons why. First of all, when you put these controllers on your hand, they just feel really good. They're easy to put in, and you slide them in there, and they strap on here at the bottom with no issues at all. And what that gives you is it's comfortable in your hands, but also when you throw interactive objects in VR, when you're throwing a grenade or something like that, when you're throwing objects in VR, now you can actually let go of the controller. So you don't actually have to grip onto the controller anymore. You can actually throw naturally like you would, and the controller stays in your hand. And that just adds a whole new level of immersion for games that actually do that, because now when you're throwing stuff, you just feel like you're actually throwing it. You're not holding on to any controller, and it just feels naturally in your hands, and that feels awesome. So that was my first favorite feature of these controllers, being able to throw naturally and grip things naturally. The second thing I like about them is the actual grip feature. So you actually don't have an actual physical button. The grip is actually on the side of the controller. You just grip it just like that. And the tighter you grip it, the more for games that support it, of course, the games can detect actually based on pressure sensitivity that you're putting more pressure on it. So if you're looking at games such as the one I just recently played that shows the Index controllers off, you can actually hold the controllers, and you'll see that the person will be like, "Hey, hold my hand harder." And if you hold his hand harder, he'll actually feel that in the game, and you'll actually feel it in the game because you feel the pressure and the rumble that you're actually holding it harder, and you can feel it, and the game knows that you're squeezing it harder. So if you squeeze it a little bit, and it's a balloon, for example, the balloon will squeeze a little bit down, and if you squeeze it even harder, the balloon will go even harder and then pop. So really, really cool stuff with the pressure sensitivity stuff. And I'm really excited to see that being incorporated into more games. And of course, Half Life Alyx coming out on Monday. I hope that they incorporate all of these features, and I'm super excited for that game. And of course, we'll be doing a full review on that next week. The next thing we got to talk about with these controllers is, of course, the actual Index finger tracking, of course, that these things are always touted about. The finger tracking works well on these controllers. Not perfect. It works like 95% well. And you have to make sure you actually put these controllers all the way up. So when you put these controllers on, slide your hand all the way in, and then actually put your hand on the analog stick and this other index finger here on the trigger, and then these three fingers here, and then grip it tight right there. Because if these three fingers are not in the position that this thing wants it at, it will not work as well for you. When I first put these controllers on, and I was doing the index tracking, and I didn't have my hand all the way up on the controller, it was missing half my fingers. The fingers wouldn't move up and all that stuff, and I was like, this is terrible. Why did anybody think the index controllers can do this reliably? Then I realized that I had to adjust my hand and put it up and put it in the exact position it's looking for, and then the finger tracking worked much, much better. Like I said, still not perfect. 95% of the time it works really well with the games that actually support it. And but I'm really happy that the feature's here, and there's definitely going to be some cool stuff that you're going to be able to do with this going forward. So I'm excited for that. And the other thing I like about these controllers compared to the Rift S, believe it or not, is that I don't have to use batteries. I know some people like using rechargeable batteries and stuff. These things last 12 hours on one charge, and I'd rather just charge the batteries. I understand people are going to be like, well, when the battery dies, it's going to be depleted in like 2 years or whatever the case may be, and then it's not going to charge as well. That's the caveat, obviously, with these. We'll see how long they actually last, but I like being able to charge these and not have to worry about batteries and stuff and replenishing those. So give or take, that can go either way depending on who you are, but I love that I can just recharge these and they last for 12 hours, which is obviously long enough for one session for anybody that's trying to play a VR game. That's long enough. So I love these controllers for all those reasons listed above, and that's why they're my second favorite thing on this headset. And my favorite controller in VR that I've tried so far is definitely the Index controllers. So the last thing we got to talk about here, especially compared to the Rift S that I had before, and this one is, of course, the price. The price on this is $999. And that is for the full VR package that comes with the Index controllers, the headset, and the 2 base stations, and all the cables you need to hook everything up. And for me, as somebody who does content in VR and wants to experience the latest and greatest in VR, I have no issues at all with getting rid of my Rift S and using this headset now as my daily driver. I have no issues with paying, the $600 premium, with the Oculus Rift S being $400 and this one being $1,000. I don't have a problem paying that $600 premium because, for me, the controllers are better. I talked about all those reasons why. I talked about the FOV increase being a little bit better than what the Rift S was. I talked about the sound being incredibly better than what the Rift S had built in. I talked about the resolution increase on here compared to the Rift S. That is better and looks a little bit clearer when you're looking at text and stuff in game, and the games look a little bit sharper than they did before. I talked about the 144 hertz mode and the 120 hertz mode compared to the 80 hertz. Was a little bit of an increase for me. And you add all that stuff together, some of them may be small, but when you take all the small stuff and then you add the 2 big things like the sound and these controllers, that all encompasses to be a much better headset overall. And for me, I would do the upgrade 10 times over, all over again for that $600 asking price, just because of me personally, because I want to experience Half Life Alyx on this headset, because the controllers are going to be designed for it. Sure, you're going to be able to play it on the Quest, you're going to be able to play it on all these on the Rift S and all these other headsets, but you're probably going to get the best experience with these controllers because it's going to be geared towards being able to do all those movements that I talked about and do all those, and you're going to get the higher refresh rate with the 120 hertz on it. You're going to get the better sound quality that's on here and stuff like that. So all of that stuff makes me excited. Now, the only downside I'd have is that this headset's been out for a while and there's a lot of games that still aren't supporting the individual features of these controllers sometimes and the headset. So that is going to be a caveat. Half Life Alyx is going to be the first true AAA title from Valve, obviously themselves, that's obviously going to go full edge and incorporate all the features of this thing to the T. And I'm excited for the 2 other future projects because they did announce they were working on 3, Half Life Alyx being the first one. So I'm excited for the future of VR with this headset, and I'm excited to use this as my daily driver from now on. And I actually tried this with Revive for the first time, which was something I was nervous about, to play my Oculus titles that I already purchased on there. And 95% of them worked out of the box with me having to do nothing. Some of them you do have to do some tweaks for, like Stormland, for example, that I did try. I had to lower the resolution because it would tank performance and it would run like crap, and ran much better when I was using Oculus Link on the Oculus Quest. It still runs a little bit better on the Oculus Quest with Link from my PC than it does on here, but with the tweaks that I've made and being able to use the controllers and stuff, it's like 95% there, but there are some hitches and stuff like that sometimes when you're playing through the game where it kind of stutters for a second, stuff like that. You can tell it was definitely made with the Oculus Rift S's resolution in mind, not with this resolution that it's going for. So that's why some tweaks need to be made, but the tweaks are easy to make. It took me like 2 minutes to tweak the settings back down to what the resolution would be on the Rift S and made those tweaks, and then it ran 95% as good as it would have been on the Oculus Quest. But even if I don't want to play it on there and I want to play some of the Oculus exclusives, I have the Quest. I can connect it to Oculus Link, and that experience is outstanding as well. Like I said, check out my video on that because that experience is really good. So overall, guys, I'm really, really excited with this headset. I'm really happy I paid and got rid of my Rift S and got this headset instead. And I'm really happy with how it's turned out. With the better tracking, the better controllers, the better display, the much better sound. All of that stuff encompasses to be a much better headset for me. Now, who would I recommend this headset for? Like I said, you have to be a person who obviously can put these base stations up, but you have to obviously be wanting to spend that cutting edge technology. Is this headset $600 better than the Oculus Rift S? To me, it was. To you, it may not be, because you're not gonna. This isn't about graphics and that's it. You're not gonna go into the headset, put it on, and it's gonna be like you're going from an original Xbox 360 to an Xbox One and be like, holy crap, these graphics are so much better. No, that's not going to be what the experience is like. So that $600 may not be worth it to you. But when you take all the little pieces of it and you're like, oh, the screen door effect is basically gone. Oh, I noticed the 120 hertz is a little smoother. Oh, I noticed the FOV increase improved. Oh, I noticed that the tracking's a little bit better. I noticed the controllers have a lot more functionality with them. take that all together, and I'll gladly pay, you know, that $600 to have all of that done to my headset and all of that encompassing together. So if that's you, like you are like me, and you're a VR enthusiast and you want to be at the cutting edge of what VR is doing, this is the best headset to play any of those games out right now in Steam VR, and it's definitely going to be the best way to play Half Life Alyx when that comes out next week. And don't forget to look for my review and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you guys can see that review when it comes out next week. I'm really excited for you guys to see that. And that's it, guys. I'm really excited to add my headset. Now this is my daily driver for PC, and I have my Oculus Quest for mobile VR, and anytime I want to do some Steam Link software when Oculus releases some cool stuff on their software and I don't want to use Revive, or Revive doesn't work or something like that because of a game, I have that as a backup, and this as my daily driver. I'm really excited for the future of VR and where everything is going. And if you guys have any questions about anything you guys have seen here today, as always, leave it down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Till next time.
Tech, Gaming Techie is the Gaming Tech, Gaming Techie, Gaming Tech. Eating brekkie is the Gaming Tech, going for a recce is the Gaming Tech, Gaming Techie is the Gaming Tech, Gaming Techie.